What's up everybody, welcome back. So first of all, I want to thank everybody who is watching my videos and who is subscribed to the channel. Last week we hit 10k subscribers, so that's really awesome. The channel is still growing and that's all thanks to you guys, so thanks for that. And as a little celebration, I want to release this arcade racing project that I've been working on for a little while. So it's a project with a track editor. You can make your own tracks and then race against a friend in a 2-player multiplayer game or just solo. And I thought it would be fun to just throw it out there for you guys to play around with. So this is going to be released on the YouTube channel, and on the Discord are the project files to download it. So in this video I'm going to run through the project quickly, so if you want to mess around with it, then at least you know a little bit where to start. So that's what we're going to do in this video. So let's start with the actual in-game part, and later on we're going to walk through the editor part as well. So first of all, if we open the game, there are no tracks in here, so we need to create a track in the track editor. So let's open it up. We can choose different levels, so this is not really a high quality level. I suck at making levels, but this is just to show you how you can set it up if you want different levels. So we can open a level and then simply start building a track in here by placing spline points, and we can connect all kinds of stuff together. So we can connect multiple tracks together by clicking the snapping points at the end of a track. And we can also place kinds of meshes and things that I pre-made. So for example, we have a small ramp that we can place over here, and then we can simply snap the track to it. So we have a track like that. So on the right side we have different things we can place, like a small ramp, a medium ramp, and junctions and things like that. And you want to keep in mind that they snap, but the actual item does not snap to the track. So the track only snaps to the item. That's something we need to keep in mind. So we can select the track and then move it, and it will snap to the point on the actual ramp over here, for example. And then I could place something like a junction and put that over here. And then if I start building on a snap point, it will snap to that point and then continue building. So this is how we can make tracks. And there's some different stuff on the side. So we can also place some decoration like a rock and a bush and things like that, if you want to make things look a little bit nicer. We have sun settings, so we can adjust the brightness of the sun and the angle and things like that. And also place something like a street light. And all of those things have options for themselves as well, so we can play around with it and make sure everything looks the way we want to. And then on the top right side we have a track option, so we can build a normal road or a half pipe. And a half pipe, I made this mesh myself, so it's definitely not perfect, but it's just to show around that you can use other meshes as well. So we have a transfer mesh over here, and then we can select connect the tracks like this, for example. And then if I select the half pipe over here and start building, then it will actually build the half pipe mesh. So there's all kinds of stuff we can do. We can make banked corners, and we can raise the track points. So for example, make it some kind of a roller coaster. Something like this. And then at the end place another transfer, for example, and snap things together. There we go. So this is sunken into the ground. We might want to raise this point a little bit to make that fixed. So there we go. So we can build tracks like this, and then we need to set it up as an actual track by placing a start line and a finish line and things like that. So we have those on the right side as well. We can place a start finish. And we have options for all of those stuff. So we can make a start and finish line combined in one actor, or we can make a separate start and finish line, as I'm going to do here. So I'm going to set this to be the start. And then at the end, I'm going to place the finish line. like so. So that's the finish, and we can also place checkpoints in between there, and those will be numbered automatically. And again, we have the options on the downside if we want to change the order, for example. So all kinds of things we can do in here to make it look and work the way we want to. So just play around with it. There's tons of options, and I've tried to display the keybinds at the top left. So if I select something, the appropriate keybinds will appear. So this is how we can make a track, and then on the options tab over here we can save it, or we can load previous tracks. So let's save this one and call this GDR. So we can select the tracks that we want to save, and we get a little preview of the screenshot over here. So each spline is a track, and we can select if we want to save everything or just parts of it. And we can also select what vehicles will be available on this track later if we play it. So let's save this track and then go to the main menu. So we have a local area network option, and we have a solo game. So let's hit solo and load our track. Select it over here, and then we can select the car. We get the top 10 list displayed over here. So there's no times yet, but there will be if we played this, obviously. So let's pick a car and change the color and then start racing. And then we are in game. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. It's just a racing game. So we get the interval times for the checkpoints, and we can simply race around and try and get the best time. So I'm not really good at this, but that's not important. And then there's a two-player, multiplayer, or a solo racing. So yeah, that's pretty much the project in game. So let me finish the race so you can see the end screen as well. Oh. Or maybe I'm not even gonna make it to the finish. So the half-pipe mesh is not great. By all means, I made it myself in Blender, and I can't model, so it's not really smooth to drive on, but it's just to demonstrate the different things you can do with this. So here's the finish line. We have first place, so we can enter a name. So that's Blunt. And then the top 10 is displayed over here. And we get the options to either restart the race or go back to the garage or the main menu. We have a list with the keybinds over here. And yeah, that's pretty much the project. So let's walk through the editor part, and then we are done for today's video. So these are pretty much two projects which make up one game. So we have the GDR Spline Roads, and that's just the track editor mainly. And then we have GDR Stunts, and that's the racing game that's built around it. So let's take a look at the Spline Roads first. I've also set up favorites, so you have easy access to the important folders. There is one main thing missing from this game, and that's sounds. So I wanted to release the project, so I had to make sure that all of the assets I'm using are actually copyright free and licensed and things like that. So I couldn't really find any good sounds that I could use. So that's missing, and other than that, the project is pretty complete. So it's not perfect, but it's fun and it's complete. So everything should work. So as I mentioned, two projects made into one pretty much, and it started as a single player project. So you can notice that, for example, if we go to the game modes, then we have variables which are specifically set up for host and client. So this is made into multiplayer, and specifically two-player multiplayer. So the host is player 1 and the client is player 2. I didn't set it up with arrays or things like that. So if you want to turn it into a multiplayer project that's suited for more than two players, you are going to have a bit of work to make everything work. So that's just a little side note over there. Now, for the multiplayer part, we don't have a subsystem setup, so it's local area network or Unreal Editor multiplayer only. So we cannot play it over Steam, for example. If you want to do that, you need to set up a subsystem yourself and make it work. So let's walk through the project. We have the GDR spline roads folder. So as I mentioned, that's the track editor basically. And in here we have the builder controller. So that's the player controller that's used in the track editor. And in here is the most important stuff if we are building a track. So I try to comment most of the stuff on the graphs so it's clear what it does and what's it for. And we have all of the functions on the left side over here. So this should be pretty self-explanatory. So this is a pretty important blueprint if we are working with the track editor, and that's combined with the widget over here, the builder UI. So this is the actual UI for that editor and all of the buttons that will spawn the building items and things like that. So these are pretty big blueprints, and those are also pretty important for the project. So the builder controller and the builder UI. And then inside of the blueprints folder, we have the builder track, and that's the actual spline that makes the track in game and in the editor. So this is also a pretty important one if you are messing with the tracks itself. So it's just a spline, you don't really see anything in here, but all of the important stuff is in here. And again, I try to comment what most of the things do. So those are pretty important blueprints and important folders. So the blueprint and the widget folder. And then in here, we also have a track parts folder. And this is where all of the custom track pieces are that I pre-made. So the ramps and the crossroad and the junction, but also the start, finish and the street light. And those are built from the custom track part base, if we talk about the ramps and things like that. So this is the setup for all of the custom stuff that you can build inside of the track parts folder. And then we can move on to the stunts. So that's the actual, pretty much the game. And again, the game mode and the controllers are pretty important over here. So in the stunts folder, they are just located in the main folder. And then again, we have a blueprints folder. In here are all of the other blueprints. Most of these aren't too important, but then at least you know where they are. So we have a vehicle blueprint over here and the vehicle pawn. So this is the parent of all of the vehicles, and this is the vehicle blueprint that came from the city samples vehicle. And then we also have vehicles inside of the vehicle template blueprints, the off-road car and the sports car. So that's all of that stuff. So other important things inside of the stunts game are the pause menu, and the pause menu is also used at the end of the game. So this is also the end game menu if we cross the start finish line. So this is where we enter our name if we hit a top 10 place and things like that. So the pause menu is also a pretty big widget with some important stuff going on in there. Then we had the blueprints and the widgets folder in here that I marked with a color. So those are pretty important. And the main stuff that you need is inside of those folders. Then the vehicles, as I mentioned, the city sample vehicles. Those are the vehicles from Epic from the city. And then we have the default vehicle template vehicles inside of the blueprint folder, off-road car and the sports car. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the project. So if you want to play around with it, just make sure you have a backup and start messing around. The code shouldn't be too complicated, so hopefully you guys can come up with some fun stuff to do with this. Thanks for watching, everybody, and again, thanks for the 10K subscribers, and I'll talk to you soon. Later, bye-bye.